Hi everybody, this is Noelle at Petitti Garden Center in Oakwood Village, and we're talking about forcing Paperwhites, Amaryllis, and also Hyacinth for the holidays. When you start a task like this, it's really good to start around the beginning of November, because many of these plants might take around 4 to 6 weeks to 8 weeks of time in order to produce their full blooms so you can enjoy them for the holiday season. One of the easiest plants to really force and start is going to be your Paperwhites. So Paperwhites are in the daffodil family, the narcissus family, and they really are not a hardy daffodil like you would think of that you would plant in the fall and they'd come up in the spring. They really are meant to be grown indoors and forced to bloom indoors. Most of them are fragrant. There are several different varieties. However, most of them are white in color. So you might have a doubled Paperwhite. You might have a single type Paperwhite. Some might be a little bit taller or shorter, just depending on the variety that you prefer. What's great about Paperwhites is that they can be grown in just gravel. In this case, I'm always telling you all, you want to make sure you have good drainage. But when you're forcing Paperwhites, you do not need good drainage. Actually, you want a pot that doesn't have any drainage holes in it, okay? So it's filled with gravel, just a little bit of pea rock pebbles, if you will, just barely below the lip of that pot. And then literally you just take your Paperwhite bulbs and you rest them right on top of those pebbles. Then you go ahead and you fill with water right to the bottom of the bulbs, just so it's barely touching. Believe it or not, within a week or so, you'll start to see roots moving down into the water, and you'll start to see those shoots appear. So Paperwhite's really, really easy. Another easy one that you can force inside at this time is going to be your Hyacinth. Lots of times you'll see kits like this for the holidays. It's a really nice gift for a gardener where you're going to have a forcing bulb vase. So they kind of have this hourglass shape to them. The reason being is the bulb will fit just right on top, right there. And so that hyacinth bulb is sitting real nicely. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill that vase with water. The water, again, is just going to go just to the very bottom of this hyacinth. So it's just barely touching. Again, you'll start to see the roots move down into the water. And again, that shoot, that stem will start to develop and grow for you. Hyacinths can also be forced in gravel. So you can take your hyacinth bulbs, just like this. This is a nice Valentine mixture, beautiful reds and whites and pinks there. And you could do the same thing. You could put it in a small pot filled with pebbles, just like the Paperwhites. You go ahead and fill with water. Make sure it doesn't have any drainage holes in it, okay? It wants to hold the water. And then that water comes all the way up to the bottom of the hyacinth. The last plant that we love during the holidays, as far as the bulbs are concerned, are the Amaryllis bulbs. And they are a really big bulb. If you've never seen them before, they are massive. They're such a large plant. And so a lot of energy, big, beautiful flowers and leaves come out of this bulb. When you're choosing an Amaryllis bulb, you want to make sure that it's nice and firm. And really with any of your bulbs, just make sure they're nice and firm to the touch. They do have the tunic, that protective coating on the outside actually does protect the bulb plant. So that's good to have that on there. With Amaryllis bulbs, what we're looking for is they can also be forced in pebbles. However, it's very, very hard to transition them into potting soil and to keep them year after year. So if you're just looking for a seasonal plant that you want to try once, you could definitely plant them in pebbles. If you want to keep your Amaryllis plant year after year, which we recommend, then go ahead and you're going to take a pot, fill it just the bottom with a little bit of pebbles, again, to increase the drainage, okay? And then you're gonna fill with potting soil, just about an inch away from the top lip of that pot. And then all we're gonna do is we're just gonna dig down and not too deep. So the whole idea is to plant the Amaryllis about half into the soil. So the roots and the bottom half of the amaryllis bulb are in the soil, and the top half and the neck of the amaryllis are above the soil. So we're just going to dig down just enough to do that. Try to get all those roots sort of nestled down into the soil, centered in the pot. Just kind of tamp the soil around, and then we'll have our amaryllis planted. Then we'll go ahead and we'll water. We'll thoroughly moisten this soil, put it in a nice bright area for all of these bulbs. A nice bright area. It does not need direct sunlight, just a bright room, maybe a little bit away from a bright sunny window, like 5 foot away, so it's getting some indirect lighting on it. And the cooler you can keep the bulbs, the longer that they are going to bloom for you too. So that's something to keep in mind as well. One other trick that I actually have for you is you can make your Paperwhites a little bit shorter, because sometimes they can grow very, very tall inside in the homes over the winter. So you can actually, when you water them, you can add an alcohol solution. It's a 5% alcohol solution, so it would be 1 part rubbing alcohol to 10 parts water. And what this does is it will actually shorten the foliage and the flowering stem, so those plants stay real upright and compact for you. So if that's something you want to try, I really highly suggest it. It works really nicely on the Paperwhites so they don't flop over and become a mess. You don't have to stake them up and so forth. But as far as indoor bulb forcing, that's something that's a great thing to do inside at this time of year, beginning of November. Enjoy.